Hello everyone and welcome to this new episode in which we are going to cover the edit component, which edits the company attributes as well as the contact and the address. It's going to be a reactive form that we're going to use here, and we will have to route to that component from the list by adding some buttons or some actions. To do that, we're going to head to the list component and add a button in the action column to make the necessary routing to get to the edit component. So let's go back to the code. Since we have the edit component here and it's routed through edit/id. So we're going to introduce the edit button within the list so that we see it. And once we click there, it gives us the edit component. To do that, I'm going to go to the action button or action column, and then add a button there. And the button would be mat raised button. And it's actually, you can get it from here. If you want to know from where I get the button, you can just go here and then fetch the code. And you can see you have a mat raised or mat button, and then mat raised, mat struct, mat flat button, mat icon button, and mat fab. So all of them are different buttons and they have different representations. So we're going to stick to the basic raised button. Just going to create that, and then I'm going to have the color to be primary, which is the blue one, and then its action would be edit. Then it's going to route to the edit component, and to route to a component you just need to use this input, and it's called router link, and this you'll have to supply what you want to do or where you want to route your action or where you want to route your user when they click there. So I'm going to route them to edit since I am already in the company's module, and then I have to supply the company ID. So it's going to be element in this case dot ID. As you can see, the element is actually here. We get it from the mat table cell, if you would. So now when I click on the edit, I should be able to go to the edit component. So let's go back and try that. So now I have the edit here. I'll just click on it, and as you can see, I'm routed correctly to the company edit component. Now we're going to work on the reactive form of the company edit component. So to do that, I'm just going to copy the create, which is very simple, very basic. Just going to create a simple form or similar form to this create form. And actually we can reuse that same component for our edit, but I don't want to mix things up. So let's start by initializing the form. And it's actually going to be form of type form loop. This is going to be my form, and it will host information about my company. And of course, I need to get the company from the database, and that will happen through the service. I'm going to get that method as well to create a new contact subform within the form array. It's going to be here, so I'm going to use it later. Once I get the data, I will go create a subform for each contact if I have many. So that is that, and then I'm going to inject the service. So I'm going to create a constructor. Then within that, I can inject my service, which is company service of type company service. It's going to be somewhere there. Service. And then this is my constructor. So now I have injected my company service and I'm ready to use it. And I'm going to create a function here called initData. This function will be initializing the data about the company. And the return type is a void. And then of course I have to get the company ID from the route. So I'll just declare a company ID here of type number. And this is going to host my company ID that I sent through the route. And in this case, it's 5. And how I get that actually is from the route. So if you go to the routing module, you will see that they have introduced a variable or a parameter that is called ID. So I can access that parameter from the router or from the activated route, which is a class that is built in within Angular. So I'm going to do that right now. And to do so, you just need to inject that class. So private route. It's called activated route, and this class will give me the information about that ID, so I can get back the the company ID from the URL. So company ID is equal to this route, and I need to get snapshot, then parameters or params ID. So I can always do that. This is an index. So now I have my ID. I can always console log that to make sure that I have the ID that I have sent. Company ID. This is how you do console log or check your variables or your parameters. So it's going to be company ID if you want to. There is actually another way to do it, or to debug your application, is by running it from here, but you're probably going to cover this in a different video. So now I'm going to call this method within the constructor, which is the main method that is responsible for initializing data for me. And I'll check the console to see that my ID is passed correctly. So I'll go back to the application, and then I'll open up the console log or the console. And then when I refresh, there is something wrong there. Let me just double check that I actually called that constructor init data. Now when I go back to the application, I can see that my ID that I have sent here is actually filled in that variable. So I can always change this to see if it's the case. So I'll put 18 there. As you can see, the ID is correctly there, set in my property. Go back to 5. Then now I'm going to call the service to get the information about the company. And to do so, I'll just make sure that the company ID is there. If not this company ID, if there is no company ID, I will just stop here, return. And if the company ID is supplied, so I can go and call the service get by ID, and this will send the company ID. And I'm going to subscribe to that, and it will resolve into data or an error in case of failure. So I can console error this error message or error object, error occurred, and then it's going to be my error that I'm going to display. And in case it resolves correctly, I can set my company. I will create another variable called company is equal to data. So now I can hover here to create a new variable or new property. So of course you can do that, or you can just call this to import it from on top here. So now my company is already there. I can initialize the form using that information, or the information that I get from the API. So this is going to be init form here. This init form. And then taking into consideration that I have the company already set up, I can always do this. So since I call it after initializing the company, so I'm going to use that to initialize my my form with the company information. Since I have one address, I'm going to just use that here. So it's going to be company.address. Since I don't have the address, I can always declare it here. So I can say address. I think I don't have the address, so I'll create a new model here. So that simplifies my life. So it's going to be address dot model dot ts. So it's going to be an interface, export interface. It's going to be an address. And I have the attribute of the address. I can always get them back from here. So I can take them from the form itself and then change their types. So this is my address. And here I have a type string. Or this is a number actually. Anyways, doesn't matter. And then I have a string here. Then I have another string here. And I have another string for the state. Same thing for the other. Country, city, all of them are of type string. And I have the address ID as well. Of type number this time, so you don't need that. Okay, so now I can initialize my company model with the address. And it's going to be address of type address. Same thing for the contact. I can create an interface for the contact. And it's going to be contact.model.ts. And I can export that interface very basic contact information. So I can, the same way I did the address, I can get them from here to make it easy for me. Copy paste and then replace all these with obviously strings. And then another string here. Of course, we need the ID of the contact, which is of type number. That's it. So now I have my interface. I can initialize the company mall with contacts, and this is actually a list of contacts. It's an array of contacts. So now I can access easily the information about the address, so that I don't make mistakes. So this is address dot street number. Of course, as you can see, it suggests that for me. Makes it easier with interfaces or models. Always rely on models. That's a lot easier to debug and to make your code less error prone, if you address line 2. Then I have state, which is an optional parameter as well. Okay, state, and I have my city. Of course, I need the country as well here. That's it for the address. Now I need to fill the contacts, and to do that, I'll have to iterate over all the contacts that I have. Contacts, and create new forms or subforms if you want for each one. So if I have contacts, or I can always for each this company contacts for each, I can say item, and I'd like to create a contact subform, and to do that I'm going to use this copy that, so it's just going to be this for first I will create the form and then fill it with the information. That will be easier. So I will create const contact form is equal to this create contact form, and then I'm going to patch the data, patch contact form info using the contact item. To do that, you just say contact form dot patch value, and then introduce the item, since we know that we have all the attributes. So now my information are written, or my contact information are set up correctly within that subform. Now I have to push that subform to the global form. To do that, you just say forms dot get contacts dot add or push, and you need to know that this is actually a form array, so I have to cast it as form array so that it will be easier for me to push the contact form, and that's it. Now everything is good. I just need to create the HTML form, and to do that I'm just going to copy the form that we have here. It's really similar to that, and of course when I submit it will be a little different. So now I have my contact, so I'll just put it here, and then I'll change the title to edit company. Then I have to declare a onSubmit method, and onSubmit method will be a little different because it's going to use the put method instead. So if my form is valid, I will submit put company information. Of course, we need to tweak a little bit the API too, so that we have the form or the company edited correctly. So I have some errors here, and this is going to be due to the contact form that is not declared. Okay, I can just get it from here as well, and then put it here. This helps me to get the form array. Now my form is ready, and before we test it, we have to make sure that I check on the form before I can initialize that. ng if form is available, since it's not going to be initialized in the first when I construct the component. When the component gets constructed, first I need to initialize the data, which takes a couple of milliseconds probably, and that results that the form is not initialized, which can cause an error to the UI. So we need to make sure that the form is initialized before we show it. That's that. And also we need to tweak a little bit the API that gets the company by ID, so that I get the information about the address, or include the address and the contacts. And to do that, just head over to the API, and within the companies, get by ID. So it's actually this one here. I'm going to include the information regarding the contacts and the address. So I'll have to just say where change that to c.id is equal to ID, and then I can say first or default. Since it's an async call, I can just say first or default async, and then here I can include the company address. Then I can include as well the list of contacts. So company c.contact. So it's going to include the contact and the address for me. If I don't do that, it will not really give me the information. So it will just return back the company information, the name and the ID. If I say this include and include, it will give me the company and the address and the contacts within that company. And this is due to the reference, or the JSON reference that we have set up to ignore that reference. So we need to manually do that for whenever we need to have all the information related to an entity. We have to use the include function. So now if I restart, I can make sure that it works. So I can go to the company get by ID and then try it out, retrieve the information for ID number 5. Then we will see that the company is included, the address is included, and the contacts, but I don't think we have contacts for this company, but they are there. You can check the other company, and the other company is actually of ID 7 if I'm not mistaken. It's actually ID 10, so I can use ID 10 to check that I have contacts actually. So I'll just replace this with 10, and then as you can see I have some contacts there. So now I'm ready to go back and check my application. So now I have my contacts, and I have my address, and I have everything ready to go. So I go back to the list of companies. Then I will click on edit the second company, and we will see the form. So as you can see, all the information regarding that company are already set up within the form, and I can try to edit information and post. But before doing that, I need to tweak a little bit the put method. And for that, you just head over to the API and let's tweak it. So let's go to the company controller, and then here, before I do the modification, I need to get the information that is already written in the database. So we'll have to retrieve the information, retrieve company info, and we're going to make our edits on that object, because here entity framework will not attach the company if I send it from the front end, unless I make sure that the ID is there and everything is there. So the easiest way is to get the current company record and then edit that record there, and get the current address, edit the address, get the current list of contacts, and edit the contacts individually. This will make it less prone to error. So to do that, we'll just need to get the current company, await context dot company where, or find async. Let's use the where c dot id is equal to id, and we need to include the address as well as the contacts. c.contacts, then first or default async. I'll just need to stop that. Then here I have my company, so let's patch the information. Patch company name, current company dot name is equal to the company that I have sent from the front end dot name. Now let's edit the address. Current company dot address. Make sure to reserve the ID, so I will just do this. Dot street number. Dot street number. Just to make it easy to illustrate what's going on. Then I'll edit the street name. Then I'll edit the city, the state, the country, and the address line too. That's it. Now I'm going to edit the contact, and to edit the contact we just need to remove the current contacts and add the new one. It's obviously easier than editing the same contact or editing the list of contacts. We can always iterate over the contacts that were sent, or the current contacts, and then edit them one by one. But the easiest is to delete all the contacts that are there and create new one based on what I have introduced of edits. It's not going to change anything. So delete the current contact. And add the new one. So to delete a range, we just say context dot contacts dot delete or remove range company dot contacts, and this in case I have contacts. So if company dot contacts dot any. So if I have any contact, I will delete that. I'll delete them. Then I'm going to create new ones. I'll have to save the changes. So now I'll just save the changes for deleting the contacts. And I'll go and add the new contacts from the company. So current company dot contacts is equal to company dot contacts. And then I'm going to make sure that my current company state is modified, and then I will introduce the changes by calling this method to save all the changes. That's it. Now let's restart this and try to edit the information about the company, the address, and the contact. Let's go back to the browser. I'll just call it Microsoft 1. Address will be 111. Updated. Whatever. So I'll just say 1, 2, 1, last name, and so on. So just update, submit. Of course, I didn't call the method to update the information, so we need to put the information using the service. So this company service dot, the put is not declared yet, so we can declare the put method. Basically is going to be like the post, but we're going to have the ID of the company first, company ID of type number, and then the company that we'd like to edit. And of course we need to introduce that here, so plus company ID, and the method will be put instead of post. So now I'm ready to go ahead and test this. I just need to call it put this company ID, and then I send the company, which is the form value, actually this form dot value, and then I'm going to subscribe to that, which resolves the data, and an error in case of error, console error. And then in case it succeeded, I go back to my list of companies, and to do that we need to inject the router. So private router. And then use this to navigate back to the list of companies. In case of successful operation, navigate to the list of companies. That's it. So now we are ready to try our application. So try to edit. I'll just edit the company name and maybe the address. And try to see if I can edit the name. New name. Okay, let's submit and see if it works. I have an error. So the other error, it says like the contact ID. I think I made an error here, so let me just double check that. So I guess this has to be current company, not the company or the contacts that I have sent. So let's try again. Now if I edit, I should be able to edit the information. So as you can see, I have just a breakpoint here. Let's just step over it, and then the company is updated successfully. So we can check the information regarding that within the database. So let's just go to the company. So it's updated, and we go to the address to see that it's got updated to this new address, some street, and so on. And the contact as well should be updated to new first name. So that's it for this video. We were able to update the information using a complex form, using reactive form from Angular, and it was quite challenging, as you can see. And the next video, we're going to work on the details and delete company, and I'm going to share with you the GitHub repository of this whole project. Thank you so much.